Hi, this is Karen O'Brien, and I wanted to give you a brief overview of our new documentation page. It's going to land you on Build 23, but let's go straight away to Build 25. Now you can see that we have expanded these documentation, so let's go to Installation and Setup, and let's start with these Pro instructions. So I think what I've done is I've simplified these step-by-step instructions down here, and of course there's this video that has a bit more detail. So if you get stuck following these instructions, just go ahead and watch the video. But it's pretty easy to set up FLO-2D. Then there's the QGIS instructions where a little more detail, a little more information is needed. We have two methods to install QGIS, and this is the one we recommend, but if you need an older method, this one works really well too. And if you are using the latest long-term release, there's something to know about it that's kind of helpful. It uses this setup installer that kind of remembers things about you. So I always like to start with this express install. And then when you do that, don't get this one. Well, there's nothing wrong with it now, but previous versions had lots of bugs. So maybe try to stay away from that one and just stick with the long-term release for the purposes of using FLO-2D. But if you start with this express install, it gives you everything you need, which is really important for using this version. Now, once you've run through it once, run through it again, and the next time use advanced install and add the H5Py and NetCDF modules. So it's basically like running through it twice. Then once you've done that, you can go on and install the FLO-2D plugin and all the other things that you need. New way to get FLO-2D plugin is by connecting to our repository. So the instructions are new. And don't forget that after you run through install FLO-2D plugin, before you start working on any project, restart QGIS so that it saves your profile. That's very important. All right, FLO-2D Pro Resource Center is new, where we have taken all of our all of our manuals and added them to this website so that you can connect them to your AI chatbot. I'll talk more about that later. So let's start with the data input manual. You can see here that the important two chapters are chapter 4 and 5, and we'll start with chapter 4, and it has a map of all of the data files. The map is right here. So if we click on the first one, cont.dat, you can see that this is an example of cont.dat as an ASCII file. We also have it as HDF5. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But if we select one of these and click Control F, that will take us down to the instructions for that particular switch. Now, typically you don't have to really worry about how you set these switches because QGIS is going to do most of this work for you. But in this case, if you want to use the channel component of FLO-2D, you do need to build a 1D channel and then turn on the switch. You can see that it's a switch because its number format is S. S is switch, integer, real, and character. And you can see that its switch positions are 0 and 1 on and off. It also has some more instructional comments, comment 1 and 6. And this down here is just going to, comment 1 is just going to tell you that if you have these switch positions turned off, you can eliminate that file. You don't need it. And this secondary comment says if the channel switch is turned on, then you also need this other variable, but you don't have to worry about that because QGIS is going to do that for you. In chapter 5, there are the output file descriptions. So if I go down here and I get one of these, let's just get an easy one, depth.out. And if I hit Control F, I'm going to have to click this a few times to get down to the actual file. You can see the actual file description is right here. So depth.out is the maximum combined channel and floodplain flow depths. I think it's also combined street too. For the FLO-2D run, okay? So it tells you what the file is, and it gives you a kind of a simple outline of the file. In this case, the output file is ASCII, and it's grid or channel left bank element. Well, this is basically just the left bank grid element, and X coordinate, Y coordinate, or variable. And then it has all of the data for the file. And all of the output files that are printed when you run your model are mapped in here. So if you take the file name and you search for it, it should take you right to it in chapter 5. Let's move on to the FLO-2D HeLa. So this is the documentation for the plugin, FLO-2D Gila 2.0 is the plugin we're using with this build. So if you click on this, you'll see that that is our current release. And if you need to install it, you'll see how to install it by clicking the installation instructions. That'll take you right back to those instructions. We run our manual works by mapping out the toolbar to its individual chapters from left to right and top to bottom. So if you want to learn about a new FLO-2D project, you can see right here that that is the position of the tool, and how to use it is all right here. Anytime that the tool is linked or requires another tool to be used first, that will be hyperlinked in the documentation. If you're using a widget, you can also see right here that here are our widgets. And for example, Grid Tools has numbers right here that go to these automatic instructions, not automatic, that take you automatically to these instructions. So you can see right here that if you want to use the grid elevation tools, you get instructions on about 4 or 5 different ways to use this tool. It discusses the entire tool and gives you instructions on how to use it. So that's how you use the documentation. Don't forget that when you're in here, you also have all these help buttons in all of these tools, and these help buttons will take you to this section of the manual. So for example, if you click the toolbar, it's going to take you right here to the user manual tools. We also have FLO-2D Gila technical reference manual, and I don't typically use this, but it does give you the math behind some of the plugin algorithms, and it gives you the HDF5 data structure. This is what's good about this manual. So if you click on this, you'll see that if you click one of these, let's go back to control parameters, you'll see that it gives you the file name, and it maps out all of the variables in the file. Let's do another one, hydraulic structures, and you'll see that if the file name is red, that means it's used by FLO-2D, and if it's green, that means it's just used by QGIS. So that is the new HDF5 file structure. And we also have the FLO-2D Gila tutorials. I'm not going to do MapCrafter and FlowRunner. You can explore those on your own, but I did want to show you that the self-help kit, one of the things that Cornelius and I have done is updated the videos and added the step-by-step instructions to all the videos. So the videos are more detailed and longer, but the step-by-step instructions are everything it takes. The shortest amount of time to get you through the tutorial are in the step-by-step instructions. And so if you were looking to learn how to use FLO-2D, this is your best bet. Okay, you'll start with create a project. You'll start with you can do rainfall and boundary conditions, channels, storm drains. If you don't need to know how to do channels and storm drains, you might be able to skip those. If you don't need to know how to do buildings and walls, you can skip that. But these are really good tutorials. And if you go to, sorry, I keep doing this wrong. If you go to the tailings dam tutorials, that'll show you how to use all of the different ways to set up tailings dams. There's so many different ways to model tailings dams. This just shows you 3 or 4 of the different methods. If you need other training modules such as mountain mud flow modeling, or like regular dam breach modeling or tank breach modeling, I have all of those tutorials as well. Now, why did we put all of this documentation as online? So you can connect it to your preferred chatbot. So for example, I use Claude and ChatGPT. I will take some information. For example, I could take some of these instructions or some of this data file. I can feed that URL right into the chatbot, and it can access and read it and help me with my modeling. Now, it's not going to be perfect because it's only going to be accessing like a small portion of whatever you feed to it. So you have to give it explicit instructions on where you want it to read, ask explicit questions, and it can give you feedback on where to find information and how to use the manual and how to troubleshoot your models or how to build your models. So it's really excellent at that, but you do have to be careful because it does get things wrong, and you need to be patient with it and work with it. The more that you work with your AI, the better it's going to get and the more help it's going to be to you. So that's it for this FLO-2D Pro documentation. I hope you get some use out of it, and let me know, always, as always, let me know if you have any issues with it.